Hey, what's good, guys? It's Cahmron. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit deeper about the NBA 2K26 builder based on what we saw in the gameplay and builder reveal on Thursday. Really, from my perspective, I spend hundreds of hours in the builder each year, try to figure out how to make every single build in the game. NBA 2K23, I believe, was the first time I did that. So I've been doing this now for 3 years, trying to find every build. Obviously, the biggest thing I'm excited about is 4,200 builds in the builder. That's going to be a ridiculous challenge. And I do have some plans for that, so stay tuned. Definitely going to make a video once I can kind of figure out the route I'm going to end up going for that. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for the builder this year. I think they're going in a really good direction, and I think they've been continuously building on a builder concept from NBA 2K23. Obviously refined that in 24, refined it in 25, and now they're further refining it in 26. Definitely noticed in the builder and on X, when I've been seeing people make comparison posts, some attributes are weighted a little bit less heavy, some are weighted heavier. And I think overall they just made some really good subtle tweaks to the builder just to encourage build diversity, height diversity, and hopefully, make a meta-less game, or a game that's not fully defined by the meta like NBA 2K25 was. So first I want to kind of talk about the genius behind the cap breaker concept. A lot of my early builds I made in like December even were, I felt like they had wasted attributes because I didn't fully plan, to have 17 cap breakers in NBA 2K25. So I found myself just kind of dropping it on a random rating, right? +1 speed, or just random ratings because I didn't fully plan properly. With weighted cap breakers though, on one hand you have a build that has no free throw, made a ton of those, right? Had a 50 free throw, so you can kind of hit with this. But now with cap breakers, you should be able to use those to at least get it to be 60, 65, 70, if need be, if you do have extra caps, which I think is going to be very valuable to just make the build more well-rounded in all game modes. But then if you look even deeper on that, I think that means hyper specialist builds are still going to be able to have decent stats in other areas. Think about the minimum 63-point requirement for the sharpshooting specialization tree or specialization quest. If you make a slasher with a 63 ball or even a 76 3 ball, whatever is required for you to get that bronze set shot, with your cap breakers and sharpshooting specialization, you very well could have gold set shot and an 80 something 3 ball on a build that's just absolutely insane with dunking and defense. Or if you're even crazier, right, and I don't know what the threshold is with those max +2s or with bronze set shot or whatever, right? But you could basically min-max to as low as you can possibly go to get that on bronze. And from there, with your max +2 and specializations, could potentially have a build with a 60 to 73 ball consistently knocking down from the corner. The lowest 3 I messed with in 2K25 was a 73. That's on my 7'3" max wingspan, and genuinely didn't feel any difference between a 73 3 ball and the 76 to 78 I normally run with. So this could be a game where you're a literal pure lockdown with like a 63. You go through the sharpshooting specialization pathway, and now all of a sudden you have gold set shot, and you're a viable threat to shoot in the corner with that pure green window, rewarding you for knowing your timing, being able to speed up your releases as well. So just kind of something I thought was really, really smart by 2K in a way to make more builds viable and kind of give you a reason to grind as well. I haven't played my career in a long time, but with these pathways and these quests and all that, you're going to have to play a little bit of my career. Some of those include like making 2,000 threes, 5,000 threes, 5,000 mid-range shots, whatever it is. You're going to need to play a decent amount of games to do that. And I think especially for grinding, my career might actually be viable. So kind of a win-win for 2K there. And again, speaking on specialization paths, you have 9 quests per path, but Really trying to think deeper on, is this going to improve your build strengths? Is this going to make your scouting report, which I'll touch on later, make your scouting report say no weaknesses? Is that possible? Does that change your build name? All kinds of stuff really tying directly into the builder. If you were to go defensive specialist on a heavy offensive build, a defensive specialist on a walking bucket type build, offensive architect type build, does the name change? Does it become a two-way? How good truly does your defense become with that max +2 permanently unlocked and cap breakers? Because again, if you had silver on ball menace, which is a very minimal investment, now all of a sudden you have Hall of Fame. If you have gold on ball menace, all of a sudden you have legend. Without needing the higher agility requirements and all that, which is a whole nother conversation, is how to min-max your physicals. But I just think the specialization pathway is going to really become this game to try to make the absolute most well-rounded build, or the most like hyper specialist build you can. If a slasher goes for that finishing specialist path, like, are they just going to have ridiculous animations? I really just, I don't know, right? You have attribute sleeves that boost things. Could a pure post scorer be able to be the old school, like, sharpshooting post scorers with the sharpshooting specialization? Would that inadvertently help your post scoring ability? Just a ton of questions I have, and something I'm very, very excited about. Just being more intentional with your build now that you have these pathways, and definitely be just aware of all this and try to think through your build before you make it, because you really can make some insane builds if you're intentional with all your stats. One that really blew my mind, Zach Timmerman posted on X, there are 4,200 build names in NBA 2K26. This is a ridiculous number. I found 313 builds in NBA 2K25. There was like 225 or something like that in NBA 2K24. And yeah, the total builds have just been growing. Been really cool, but there's been a massive jump in NBA 2K26. So I'm working on some stuff for this to try to optimize this and even make it possible to find these names. So stay tuned for that. What I'm really interested about is if it's even possible to unlock these build names, how difficult it's going to be, how hyper specific are the stats going to need to be, just stuff that really, until the builders get their hands on this and kind of figure out how everything works. I'm not going to have a very good answer for that. I'm assuming build evolutions are coming back, which in my mind I think is a win and almost something that's needed, because I think it again builds on the concept of last year with cap breakers. Now a build could truly evolve depending on their specialist pathways, which I think is pretty cool. I also think there's a possibility, especially until we're able to get every single build map, that you could be the only person with a specific build name for a little bit, just because there is such a crazy high volume. Something else I really like is being able to optimize your build for animation thresholds or badges, right? So there were times before where I wanted to make a build that, specifically was able to get that 85 ball handle and specifically be able to get the T-Max size up. And now you really could optimize a build for that before you even start messing with other things. I wanted the T-Max size up, but then I also wanted my 99 driving dunk. Did that with cap breakers, but kind of a similar concept. Wanted the strong handles to be able to trigger the nutmegs consistently, and just in general being able to optimize your build through animations. If there's a layup package you like, dunk package, jump shot base, literally anything like that, now you can kind of start with that end goal in mind and go from there, which I think is really, really nice. And definitely something, again, just helps people be more intentional when they are making their builds. Takeover customization, along with the standard takeovers. I definitely think takeovers were improved this year. You have the takeover reward pathway to be able to permanently unlock takeovers without having to grind them. This is huge. I played a lot of rec in NBA 2K25. It just took so long to get these takeovers maxed out. Couldn't play a ton of 2s just because I would get really tired of getting L2'd over and over and over again. But, playing on the rec takes some time, but now you'll be able to just kind of unlock some of those. And I think this gives more opportunity for people to test out other takeovers as well, which again is just going to create just more unique play styles. And obviously with the customization aspect, you can make some really, really unique takeovers. Unfortunately, you cannot use physical boosts with the custom takeovers. I'm assuming those will still be there for your standards. I think they did this just so people don't just completely stop using your standard takeovers. But this is something I talked about last year. I always wanted a build that could get a 3-point shot boost on top of, maybe some rebounding, etc. But then I decided to just do post take, right? A deep post bag. Or it's a pure glass take with sharp takeover. Or a pure sharp take with glass takeover. Pure sharp boosts with glass takeover. And now that that's coming, I think that's going to be a really, really good addition to the game. And again, player customization, right? I want my player to play exactly how I want it to play. I want it to have all the stats I want, all the animations, all the takeovers. And this is just 2K's way of giving us even more control over how our build plays, which I think is huge. I know there were times last year it kind of felt like you really weren't in control of your player, and I think they're gonna improve on that this year. And I think overall it's just gonna be a way better concept. Talking about height balancing a little bit, so 7'4" is the new max height. I'm gonna assume 5'9", 5'8", 5'7" range is gonna be the minimum height. The 7'4" height is really, really cool. I'm excited for that. Definitely gonna try to make 7'4" post score, 7'4" sharpshooting post score. Something like that day one for sure, but with height balancing, it sounds like speed and acceleration curves have been reworked a little bit. Attribute rating thresholds, max ratings for different heights, I think have been reworked. Beluba on Twitter was talking about kind of reworking some animations to just be under 6'10", as opposed to under 6'5", or under 6'4", and all of that stuff, which is huge for taller builds. And that leads me to believe ball handle might be able to go up. You may be able to get higher speed with ball. Just in general, I think there's ways to play this game however you want with whatever height you want to be at. We're not just going to see a purely defined, 6'2", 6'1", 6'3" guard meta with 6'4" locks and then 6'6" locks. 7-foot centers. I think you're going to be able to play kind of however you want with height balancing, and I think there's going to be pros and cons to every height. Hopefully that's the case, and I think that's just going to make the game again way more enjoyable. What's interesting about that is there is a rework. With the contest system. I don't know if height is going to be pulling into that more. If so, you may want to max out that perimeter defense on your 7'4", get some crazy contests. Block has been reworked, interior defense has been reworked, so I just think in general there's going to be better height balance in NBA 2K26. Now let's talk about Rebirth. So Rebirth was completely redone. You have your standard silver Rebirth at 90 overall, which is just your normal Rebirth. But now when you hit 95 overall for each build that does, you unlock that Gold Rebirth, Hall of Fame Rebirth, and Legend Rebirth. So you will have to make 4 builds, I believe, in total to get Legend Rebirth. If you're someone that does make 4 builds, just be sure every build you do prior to that 4th one is 95 overall, just to get the most out of it. And on that 4th build, your badges will be fully maxed. So I'd recommend that's the build you kind of go crazy with. Utilize the max plus 2s as well. And I think, as the year goes on, especially within this first season, I think day one, you're going to see some really, really diverse builds. And towards the end of the season, once people have their rebirths, you're really going to start to see some crazy optimized builds to just be designed to get all your badges very quick. I think this is going to be interesting to see. And we'll just have to kind of see, how nice it's going to be to have all your badges off rip, which in my mind, that's a huge win. Used a ton of badge elevators in NBA 2K25 to achieve that. But I think being able to just do that with any build is going to be really nice. build templates, I think were refined a little bit. So I think your Pro Toon builds are going to be a little bit more usable this year. There were Pro Toon builds I really liked the concept of, but they were either too slow or didn't have enough defense, and just they didn't fit the meta of NBA 2K25. So hopefully this year, Pro Toon builds are more optimized. Hopefully your NBA template builds as well are a little bit more optimized. I think the best one was Wemby last year by far, because he was 7-3 with the Wemby signature animations. And I just, I want to see other NBA templates become viable for that reason. Community builds coming back for season 2. Evan talked in the live stream about how it's going to be more community open now, kind of for submissions. So I think that's going to be huge. For those of you out there that really love making rare builds, this could be your chance to get some featured in the game, which I think is great. Yeah, just kind of wrapping up a little bit, I think if you combine all the new changes from NBA 2K25 to NBA 2K26's builder, you could get a 7-4 center that, with Legend Rebirth and Max plus 2s could have crazy defensive specialization with the ability to stretch and space the floor. And really imagine that with custom Takeover, where you have glass takeover ability, but your 3-ball rating goes up. Or vice versa, right? If Sharp Take actually works this year, that would be great. I'm curious if you could get like deep bombers or anything like that on these custom takes, or if there are attribute thresholds. I'm going to assume there are. But I think this game is just going to be very, very, very unique, and you can kind of play however you want. You can make a ridiculously fast 6'6" wing, point guard, shooting guard, power forward, whatever you want it to be, that could get that gold lightning launch, and then you could max plus 2 that to legend, which would be ridiculous. Could get legend ankle assassin on a build that gets gold. Just in general, I think you're going to be able to build really, really unique builds and have the ability to make builds have unique aspects that others don't. And really, I think that's going to encourage people to be unique in the builder. And there's still going to be meta builds, and there's still going to be a play style people enjoy. But I feel like, it's a little bit more encouraged in this game to be unique, be you, make builds that you want to play on. And as someone that likes to play however I want to play, I really, really, really enjoy that, and I'm really excited to try to get my hands on this builder. So I wonder, are they going to keep teasing any new build names? What's going to be, the optimized legend badge loadout? Last year it was kind of load up on your shooting badges or grab the defensive badges. Is legend post powerhouse going to be solid this year? Legend posterizer, are legend badges the exact same as 2K25, or some more effective now? Have some been balanced? Things we really won't know until we have the game, or if they discuss that. Really excited. Again, the scouting report piece is something I think is really cool, because there are times in the rec where I wouldn't be playing center, and my center would have like a 55 pass accuracy and just not even be able to throw full court passes. Terrible throw. There's just so many times where that scouting report would be incredibly valuable to see. So I think that's going to be huge. Kind of looking at the build names as well, I just genuinely can't believe there's 4,200 build names. It's so crazy to me. Great job to the dev team. As someone that loves rare builds and loves discovering new names, this is huge. It's going to make the game way more enjoyable for me, and everyone else out there too who loves making rare builds. This is your opportunity to find a name that's very, very unique, that suits you, and kind of run with that, not have to really settle for a name, because I feel like you could probably tweak a couple stats and get a brand new name just like that. I think this builder may be the foundation for a lot of other ones going forward. Tons of build names, at least in my eyes right now, seems very balanced. And I do think maybe next game, 2K27, they may add new badges or anything like that. But I think this may be the foundation, and something we look back on as the start of a really, really great era for NBA 2K25. Truly, just from a builder's perspective, this is like a complete paradigm shift. Over 10 times the builds there were last year. We're creating something that's almost like an expression of how we want to play, right? You can put in your stats, use the cap breakers, take out your weaknesses, build your own takeover, and kind of create your own perfect build and your own perfect build journey. So I think that's a really, really great thing. And I'm very, very excited to try to get my hands on this game, hop in the builder, hop in the lab, and just start trying to build the best rare builds in the game. So with that, if you guys are interested, I do have a Discord link on my channel. I'm going to be making an announcement in there soon, kind of about a strategy for how to find these 4,200 build names. Also, we play rec in there all the time, talk rare builds, builder help, animations, trying to help people find build names. Solely just build focused Discord with a lot of rec runs and a lot of park runs thrown in there. So if you're interested in that, be sure to join. Made it this far, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's all I got. Have a great day. Peace.